Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. If you enjoyed today's content, please show your support by hitting that like button, and a gentle reminder that the PlayStation podcast starts this Sunday, 15th of June at 7 PM. So, during a recent business meeting, Hideo Nishino, the newly appointed president and CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment, opened up about what lies ahead for PlayStation. While he stopped short of confirming details about the PlayStation 6, Nishino provided an insight into the company's direction regarding hardware, cloud gaming, and evolving player engagement. And Nishino addressed a key question on many gamers' minds: whether traditional consoles are being phased out in favor of cloud gaming. And his answer was crystal clear. There is a strong demand for a dedicated gaming hardware device. Despite advancements in cloud technology, the feedback and behavior of users continue to show that most players prefer playing directly on a console. This is evident from the success of the PlayStation 5 and its upgraded version, the PlayStation 5 Pro. Nishino goes on to say that cloud streaming is technically progressing, but there are challenges beyond our control, such as the consistency of network conditions. There's also the issue of cost per playtime, which remains higher than playing on a traditional console. Cloud gaming is not going away, and Sony sees it as a growing option that provides flexibility. However, Nishino stressed that local execution, which basically means running games directly on a console, remains the preferred method for the majority of our players. Sony now supports a large active user base spread across both the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5 platforms. Nishino pointed out that this multi-generational ecosystem has only kept the PlayStation brand thriving, but has also shown how much value players still find in traditional hardware. With over 124 million monthly active users, engagement remains high across both generations. Naturally, this raises expectations for the next generation. Although details about the PlayStation 6 are still undisclosed, Nishino assured everyone that the future of the platform is a key part of the focus for Sony. He continues to say that we are committed to finding new and better ways for players to engage with our content and services. And while Sony hasn't officially announced the PlayStation 6, several reports suggest that it's already in development. Sony is believed to be working with AMD on what is currently being referred to as Project Amethyst. This project may include the use of 3D stacked chips to power the PlayStation 6, which would allow for significant performance improvements. There are also rumors about a new handheld device that might launch alongside the PlayStation 6. The rumored device could feature shader binary compatibility, making it possible to run PlayStation 5 games, a move that could appeal to gamers looking for both power and also portability. In the same business meeting, Sony Interactive Entertainment's Senior Vice President of Finance and Corporate Development, Lynn Azar, spoke about how Sony's business model has evolved. When asked about how a new console release might impact profits, Azar explained that Sony has diversified its revenue streams. Today, most of the company's income comes from digital content, specifically subscriptions and microtransactions. Azar goes on to say, "We've reduced the traditional financial ups and downs that used to come with new console launches by building a strong ecosystem of players across PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and now even PC. This helps create a stable and reoccurring revenue base." Azar emphasized that PlayStation 5 users are the most engaged and spend the most money compared to earlier generations, yet the PlayStation 4 still retains a significant number of active users who continue to spend on content and services. This approach, supporting multiple generations at once, allows Sony to tailor its offerings to different player habits and preferences. Now, although Sony hasn't shared a timeline for its next generation console, court documents related to Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard suggests the PlayStation 6 might not arrive until 2028. That gives the PS5 plenty of room to grow right now, especially with the support of digital content, cloud options, and potential new devices in the pipeline. So Sony's strategy appears to be one of balance right now. While continuing to invest in cutting-edge cloud technology, Sony remains committed to physical hardware, which the vast majority of PlayStation gamers really wanted to know. At the same time, it's building a more flexible platform that caters to a broader range of players. How do you feel about Sony's direction moving forward? Still focusing heavily on the console platform, but also at the same time investing in cloud technology for the future. It seems like a sensible one to me. Guys, let me know your comments down below. And let's move on to the next topic, because in recent years we've seen a growing trend in the gaming industry. More and more games are being released across multiple different platforms. Xbox, for example, has fully embraced this shift where they launch games simultaneously onto console and PC and then release it onto Nintendo and PlayStation, for example. But Sony is taking a different route, and it's a very deliberate one. PlayStation Studios boss Hermen Hulst recently gave some insight into how Sony is thinking about PC releases. In a recent business segment meeting, he explained that Sony wants to expand its audience, but it also doesn't want to sacrifice the unique value that owning a PlayStation console brings. In simple terms, Sony doesn't want to put all of its biggest games onto PC too quickly, or at all in some cases. We've already seen Sony release some of its major titles on PC over the past few years. Games like Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War 2018, Days Gone, Spider-Man Remastered, all of these games eventually made their way to PC, often a year or more after their PS4 or PS5 launch. But other highly anticipated games like Gran Turismo 7 and Demon's Souls, which were rumoured to be going over to PC, haven't actually made that leap. This shows that Sony is not rushing to push everything to a broader platform just for short-term profit. Instead, they're picking and choosing very, very carefully. According to Hulst, the main reason for this slow and selective rollout is simple. Sony wants to protect the value of the PlayStation 5. He pointed out that many of their flagship titles, especially single-player, story-driven games, are made to show off what the PlayStation hardware can do. These games act as showcases. They're built from the ground up to run best on PlayStation consoles, and releasing them too quickly or too widely could make owning a PlayStation feel less special. As Hulst puts it, PlayStation's tentpole titles, think of games like Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us Part 2 and God of War Ragnarok, are key differentiators. They highlight what makes the PlayStation 5 stand out in the console space. Now, even though some of these have been released onto PC, going forward, the strategy is completely different. By holding on to key exclusives a little bit longer, or in some cases, not porting them over to PC at all, Sony can keep the console relevant and valuable in the eyes of players. He emphasized that they're being very thoughtful and very deliberate when it comes to deciding which games should come to other platforms and when. During the same meeting, Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Hideaki Nishino added more to this conversation. He acknowledged that the gaming landscape is changing with new business models and platforms emerging. Microsoft's recent push for day one multi-platform releases was brought up during this meeting, but Nishino made it clear that Sony isn't in a rush to follow that same path. Instead, Sony is closely watching how players interact with its games and platforms. They want to learn from player behavior before making major changes to their release strategy. Nishino also welcomed the competition, saying it pushes the industry to innovate and improve. But he made it clear that Sony feels confident in its current approach. There's no urgent need to pivot or change course, even as the rest of the industry experiments with new ways to reach more players. For gamers, this means we'll likely continue to see PlayStation exclusives stay on consoles for a lot longer before they come to PC, if they even come to PC at all. Unlike Xbox, which is going all in on making its games available on as many devices as possible, Sony wants to maintain a sense of exclusivity, at least for its biggest titles. Games that are live service focused or built on ongoing engagement might see faster PC releases, maybe even day and date PC releases, since those benefit from having larger communities. But major single player games, especially ones that are designed to make the PlayStation 5 shine, will probably remain exclusive for at least a year or more. And in some cases, like GT7 and Demon's Souls, they may never come to PC at all. Those decisions, as Hulst made clear, are intentional, not just based on technical feasibility or timing, but on how Sony wants to shape the PlayStation brand and experience. Sony's message is clear. It's not just about selling as many copies of a game as possible. They've got to protect the brand, right? It's about creating a strong, valuable ecosystem around the PlayStation brand, which, let's be fair, has had some pretty difficult times with all these live service games. And part of the process here is making sure that the best PlayStation experiences stay closely tied to the console, at least for now. Now, I'm not sure how everyone feels about this, but honestly, I'm all for it. Personally, I've always believed that exclusive content is what propels a platform forward. Whether it's a console or a streaming service or any kind of digital ecosystem, if you don't offer something unique, it becomes harder and harder to stand out in an increasingly competitive market. That's why I actually welcome Sony's renewed focus on PlayStation exclusives. I prefer this direction over the idea of releasing games everywhere simultaneously. Microsoft are doing this with Xbox right now, and look what's happening to their console hardware. It's virtually not worth manufacturing an Xbox console and releasing any hardware. The sales are in freefall and the console is practically dead. For me, there's something special about having a distinct, curated library that gives players a reason to choose a platform. From what we're seeing, Sony is shifting back towards a strategy that centers around the console itself. PlayStation is once again the centerpiece of the entire ecosystem, and everything else, whether it's services, hardware, accessories, cross-platform expansions, they all exist to support and enhance the core PlayStation console experience. The goal here is to give the console real value. It's not just a machine, it's the place to be if you want to experience certain games, especially major first-party blockbusters. Some of these titles may eventually make their way over to PC, but that timed exclusivity helps maintain the console's relevance and desirability. And in some cases, releasing an older game to PC ahead of a sequel could serve as a smart teaser, enticing some PC gamers to consider picking up a console to stay up to date with the franchise, as a sequel is just around the corner. At the same time, Sony is not also abandoning innovation or diversification. They're still developing and refining the PlayStation Plus subscription service, but now with a slightly clearer focus. Only a select few studios will now concentrate on live service games going forward, instead of pulling every first-party team into that direction. That's a much more sustainable approach. They're also continuing to explore a new handheld platform to complement the PlayStation console experience, continued investment into VR technology through PSVR 2 and beyond, whatever their next VR experience is going to be, building a PC launcher and improving their cloud gaming infrastructure. All of these initiatives act as support beams for the core console strategy, strengthening the overall PlayStation brand rather than distracting from it. To me, this feels like a course correction after years of experimentation. It's a smart, measured approach back to what made the brand successful in the very first place, which was compelling single-player experiences only available on the PlayStation platform, thoughtful exclusivity, and a console that truly means something to its audience. Guys, let me know your thoughts on some of these points that came out from the Sony meeting, and let's move on. Not too long ago, there was growing excitement around a rumored Xbox handheld device, something Microsoft was reportedly developing to go hand in hand with its next generation console. It was seen as a natural move in the market that's shown increasing interest in portable gaming, thanks in part to devices like the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch. A couple of weeks ago, according to reports from Windows Central, that handheld project had been paused. However, we are now learning today that it might be more than just a pause. Industry insider Tom Warren from The Verge, writing in his paywalled newsletter, went further, suggesting that Microsoft may have fully shelved the internal development of this handheld. Now, if this is true, it would come as a hammer blow to the Xbox platform, as many of its gamers are desperate to see new hardware, since the Xbox Series consoles have not had a mid-gen console refresh like PlayStation has with the PlayStation 5 Pro. However, this doesn't mean Xbox fans will be left without portable options. Even though Microsoft is no longer focusing on building its own handheld console for now, the company still has strong ties with Asus. The two companies have partnered to develop the Rogue Ally and the upcoming Rogue Ally X. Now, these devices were officially revealed during the Xbox Games Showcase and are scheduled for a holiday release. Originally, the Asus partnership was seen as a temporary solution, a stopgap if you like, until Microsoft could bring its own handheld to market. But now, with internal hardware development on hold or cancelled, the Asus Rogue Ally lineup has become even more important. According to Tom Warren, Microsoft's true long-term focus is not on building more devices. Instead, it's about growing and improving its software platform, particularly Xbox's integration with Windows and its cloud services. The Rogue Ally handhelds are not just handheld devices per se, it's a test case. They're being used to explore how Xbox can function in different environments on Windows-based devices through streaming and across form factors. It's about making Xbox not just a console, but a flexible ecosystem that you can access from just about anywhere. The vision isn't new. Microsoft has been pushing Xbox Cloud Gaming and Xbox Play Anywhere for a while now. These services allow users to access games on multiple devices with a single purchase and stream games over the internet without needing a powerful console on hand. Of course, streaming isn't perfect yet. Internet stability, latency, and quality still vary depending on your location, but Microsoft is banking on those issues becoming less of a problem over time. And with an emulation project reportedly in development under Sarah Bond's leadership, the company is also working on solutions to make Xbox games more adaptable across devices without compromising the quality. Although the handheld project may be cancelled, Microsoft hasn't abandoned the hardware altogether. There is still an official next-generation Xbox console in the works. It's rumored to launch in 2027, likely around the holiday season, the same release window as previous major Xbox launches. And Microsoft isn't holding back on the hype and excitement around this new console. Last year, the company made some bold claims saying that this new console would deliver the biggest technical leap ever seen from one generation to the next. That's a huge promise, especially given how powerful the Xbox Series X already is, but we still haven't had any specs or anything like that confirmed from Microsoft on the new Xbox console. It's believed that this leap could be powered by emerging technologies like machine learning and AI, which could greatly enhance graphics, performance, and in-game experiences. Now, whether or not the final product lives up to the hype remains to be seen. So guys, what are your thoughts on this? The Xbox handheld now reportedly to being cancelled. Was it real in the first place? And your thoughts on the Rogue Ally X being a test case for its software services. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and let's move on. For the first time in the history of the franchise, Gears of War, one of Xbox's most iconic and long-running exclusives, is officially making its way to a PlayStation console. This is a major moment in gaming, especially for long-time PlayStation players who have never had the chance to experience this game firsthand. Gears of War Reloaded is a modern remaster of the original 2006 game that kicked off the franchise nearly 20 years ago. The developers, the Coalition, the studio that's been in charge of Gears since Microsoft handed them the reins, have put serious work into making sure this version feels up to date, not just a basic touch-up. Gears of War Reloaded isn't just a re-release, it's a full visual and performance upgrade for current generation platforms. The original game laid the foundation for the cover-based third-person shooter genre, and this version aims to preserve that core gameplay while giving it a modern polish. The Gears game will feature remastered textures and 4K assets, meaning everything from environments to character models will look far more detailed and cleaner than ever before. The game will have improved post-processing visual effects, which will help enhance the game's atmosphere, and with better lighting, shadows, and visual flair. There are performance upgrades too. The single-player campaign is designed to run a smooth 60 frames per second, while the multiplayer component is optimized for up to 120 frames per second, depending on your setup. The game has full 4K resolution support, giving players on high-end systems the best visual clarity the franchise has ever offered. But the upgrades aren't just technical. The remaster will also include all content that was added to the original game after launch, which means the extra campaign act, originally exclusive to the PC version back in the day, every multiplayer map and mode that was part of the original game's full release cycle, a full roster of classic characters and cosmetics, letting returning fans relive the nostalgia and giving new players access to everything right out of the gate. There's also built-in crossplay, so no matter what platform you're on, whether it's PlayStation, Xbox or PC, you'll be able to team up with friends across the board. Gears of War Reloaded does not require a Microsoft account to play on PlayStation, which should come as welcome news to anyone who just wants to jump into the action without extra logins or setup. The game is set to launch this August on the 26th, 2025. For players who want to get an early look, the first phase of the game's multiplayer beta is already live, starting today and running until June the 15th. That gives the community a chance to test out the updated multiplayer experience, give feedback, and get a real feel for the new performance upgrades ahead of its release. It's also a great opportunity for players, especially those on PlayStation, to experience Gears of War for the very first time in its most refined form. The arrival of Gears of War Reloaded on PlayStation is more than just a single game release. It is a sign of the changing times across the industry. For years, Gears was a core Xbox exclusive, often viewed as one of the big three alongside Halo and Forza. Opening the door to PlayStation essentially just confirms that Microsoft is no longer competing with PlayStation in the hardware space and wants to take its software onto as many platforms as possible. There's also reports that Gears of War Reloaded will come with the full game on disc, following the poor reception that Doom the Dark Ages received after having barely 85 megabytes on the disc, and how most of the PlayStation fanbase rejected the game due to poor optimization for PlayStation consoles. It looks as though Microsoft was listening. So according to Spanish website Vandal, the Gears of War Reloaded Blu-ray disc will include the full game on the disc, which is great news if this rumor turns out to be true. And if it is, I for one will be picking this up day one. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments about the content discussed in the video today, and I'll catch you on the next video.